And I believe that he's going back and will start it virtually immediately. And he's already indicated that. And you look at what he's done. So we got our hostages back, but they've blown up one of their sites, one of their testing sites, their primary testing site. In fact, some people say their only testing site. They're getting rid of a missile, which isn't in the document that was done afterwards. They're getting rid of a missile testing site. They're doing so much now. So it's a process, and it's really moving rapidly.
Okay, rapidly is good. That is an excerpt from Sean Hannity's interview, exclusive cable interview. You'll see tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's bring in Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire, syndicated columnist and the host of the Ben Shapiro Show. Ben, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Well, we saw some history. First time an American president has ever exchanged words with any leader from North Korea. Now they start the detail light process of denuking North Korea. What's your major concern?
Well, a major concern is that if you thought of the flag that was next to the American flag as a Nazi flag rather than a North Korean flag, then I think everybody would see the concern. This is a slave state with 25 million prisoners and a gulag system, hundreds of thousands of people wide. The president's praise for the dictator of North Korea was disquieting, and here's the reality. Diplomacy is a tactic. It is not an outcome. And the triumphalism that seems to be appearing in so many places this morning, where everybody's very excited that President Trump met with Kim, that's not justified by the outcome yet. Okay, maybe it will be. Maybe President Trump actually got some serious concessions out of the Kim family. But that would be the first time, because virtually every other president has failed in doing that. And the piece of paper that got signed yesterday is frankly weak. I mean, this is not a strong piece of paper. If what Trump says in that interview with Sean is exactly correct, then we'll all be celebrating. But I want to wait to see if that actually ends up being correct, because there's no history of this family ever having not lied to the West.
Well, it appears that he wants to make some changes. I mean, he fired three of his dad's hardliners, and seems to be taking advice from other people instead of the people that ran that awful regime before. Clearly, this guy also has killed some of his family members. You're right about the 25 million. What does the president need to do to try to change his mindset so that he takes all of these people out of captivity and treats them fairly and feeds them?
Frankly, I think the best thing the president has done thus far has been all of the strength leading up to this particular summit, not the actual summit itself. I think that when President Trump was demonstrating full scale that he was willing to do whatever was necessary in order to denuclearize the peninsula and to ensure that North Korea eventually transitions into a place that is more friendly to human rights, that's a lot better than going there and patting Kim Jong-un on the back. I don't understand, frankly, why we would have a summit like this from the president of the United States shaking hands and giving a thumbs up to a dictator when the president, we are the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the freest country in the history of the world. And putting the flag of the freest country in the history of the world next to the flag of an evil dictatorship and then praising that guy, we didn't have to do this. The guy's a tin pot dictator, and treating him as though he's an equal world leader seems to me counterproductive. But listen, I could be wrong. President Trump's proved me wrong before, and I'll be happy to admit that I'm wrong on your air as soon as all of the things that President Trump promises actually come to pass.
The tradition is you go ahead and you have all your Secretary of State and people, the Undersecretary of State, work out this deal. And when you actually show up, you got a huge book, and they open it up and they sign it. It's the last day. This president is doing everything different from day one. I don't think I have to explain that to his biggest fan or his biggest critic. So the one thing he's doing different is we're going to break the ice of 70 years. We're going to start with a meeting and work our way backwards. So I think
a lot of this is faith-based, right? A lot of this is faith-based. If President Obama had done this, I would be crushing him today. President Trump has done this, and we're going to have to see how it comes out in the wash, because the fact is that President Trump has not been as weak in negotiation, not nearly as weak in negotiation as President Obama was. So the outcome is going to determine whether this was a historic turning point or whether this was a debacle.
Well, he was asked during his press conference a question regarding, what if they don't really, you can't verify, they might cheat, stuff like that. What are you going to do? And he said, I'm not going to talk about that right now. He said, I am willing to do anything to save the lives of 30 million people. So his heart is in the right place. But you're right. The verification thing is still a vast gray area that we do not know how that's going to work.
Exactly. And my feeling here is that, again, the president could have said all of these things without necessarily going and being so kind to Kim himself. But maybe the president is right. It's possible. He always obviously bases these sorts of negotiations on personal relationships. He feels that he's forged a good personal relationship with Kim Jong-un. Again, I'm deeply skeptical that Kim Jong-un and President Trump are going to be besties and that this is going to suddenly change the world. But I'm happy to be proved wrong. For the 1000th time with President Trump, I'm happy to be proved wrong. But I can't be super optimistic in seeing what I'm seeing when the president is praising on stage a guy who is as evil as this guy.
Then what do you think really happened to Otto Warmbier? You know, the president said he didn't die in vain, that we wouldn't be at this place if the world had not seen what happened to Otto. What do you think really happened to him?
He was beaten to death. I mean, he was beaten to death by the North Korean prison guards. I mean, this is, and the North Koreans, it's a brutal dictatorial slave state.
Why did they do that to him? Why the other three came back safely, and now his family, you know, they're left to wonder, why did you do that to our precious child?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had some sort of vision on why that happened, but if the president really wants to make sure that Otto Warmbier didn't die in vain, then I think that it is incumbent on him to be as harsh as humanly possible on the Kim regime, rather than, you know, hand-holding and patting and giving the thumbs up. I don't think he deserves the Trump thumbs up yet.
Being that there's such a bizarre country in North Korea, the president's always said, and Lindsey Graham has backed him up and kind of said it, one way or another it's going to get solved in his first term. So whether it's going to be the peaceful way or it's going to be through conflict, this current situation can no longer exist. The status quo doesn't work, and they need to understand that military threat. Do you buy that?
Well, I think they certainly need to understand the military threat, which is why I hope that the president's words in the last 24 hours about ratcheting down military exercises, and he even made some comments in his press conference about pulling troops off the peninsula. I think that's actually the exact opposite of what we ought to be talking about with regard to North Koreans. The reason they're coming to the table is because President Trump is a guy with a fist inside the velvet glove. And if you take away the fist, I think all that's left is an empty glove.
I think he said that the war games were going to be on hold and the troops in South Korea will stay for now.
Right.
But stay tuned.
Yep.
All right. Ben, thank you very much.
Ben.
Great hearing from
Thanks
you
a lot.
today.
We will make America great again.